Well, I think it's dry enough to spread. We're gonna try anyhow. Really, there's only one field I'm worried about, and the only reason I'm worried about it is because fucking power company went in there and cleared power line right of ways. And they did it right in the middle of winter when the ground was not froze and we'd been getting a bunch of rain, and they cut ruts that are probably a solid foot deep. That's gonna be fun to get around, but this is really the only other field I can think of that I gotta worry about a wet spot, and it looks pretty damn dry to me, so we're gonna give her the good old college try. Doing something a little different on my fertilizer plan this year, and I'll probably talk about that later at the end of the video, but anyway, pitter patter, let's get at her. Make sure I got them hoses hooked up the right way. spreading with that today. It's got a straight pipe on it. Oh, it sounds sexy. Surprised I still got spreaders sitting here right now. I figured it's dry. Well, it ain't perfectly dry, but dry as it's been all week, I'm kind of surprised there isn't anybody else out trying to spread right now. That was a day. 11 hours almost on the dot from when I started that thing to when I shut it off. So, and that was the inaugural test for the rebuilt power takeoff, and no issues with that, so mint. She's a little dirty, but all in all, it was a lot drier than I thought it was, and there was really only one field. Well, this field down here next to the house was really the only one that had issues in. That field needs tile, something fierce. It's another thing on the someday list. But like I said at the very beginning when I got started here, doing something a little different as far as my fertilizer program this year in order to I guess save a little cash, if that's what we're going for, because last year didn't go so well and grain prices were shit, and this year's going real great and grain prices are shit, and something's got to give somewhere. So basically I'm applying a maintenance rate, what's called a maintenance rate of fertilizer on everything, and I'm just straight rating it. In years past, every field has got its own prescription fertilizer program, and this year, like I say, I'm just straight rating it. And what I'm doing is basing it on what's called the Tri-State Fertilizer Recommendation Program, which is basically, I don't even know when they came out with it. It was years ago. Michigan State, Ohio State, and Purdue, which are the three ag colleges in the tri-state area, all sat down and said, all right, we are all going to come up with a fertilizer program based on our geographical region that will work in all three states. So this will be the program that if you live in Michigan, Indiana, or Ohio and you send your soil tests into a lab, this is going to be the university recommended system that they use to base their fertilizer recommendations on. And there's a whole laundry list of equations that you use and a bunch of variables that you use and a bunch of fixed numbers that you use, and we won't go into that, but basically the three biggest takeaways from it is there's a three-part, this is the graph, if you want to call it that, with on your x-axis is your soil test level in parts per million, and on your y-axis is your fertilizer application rate. And the three parts of the curve or line, whatever you want to call it, there's a build-up, a maintenance, and a drawdown, and this is supposed to be flat. Yeah. So basically these 2 points where there's a direction change in the curve are what are called your lower critical level and your upper critical level, or sorry, your critical level and your maintenance level. And basically for phosphorus, these 2 points are found with equations. For potassium, or K, because it's your fertilizer's NPK, your three main, and then you got micronutrients and all sorts of stuff, but NPK are your main ones. Phosphorus, or P, these 2 points are found with an equation. And for K, on the tri-state recommendation, your lower, or your critical level is 15 parts per million, and your maintenance level, or your maintenance threshold, is 30 parts per million. Those two never change for K. But anyhow, to cut a long story short, Anything below your critical level, you use your buildup equation, which basically means the lower your soil test level, the higher your application rate. Then for your maintenance range, if you fall in between these 2 points, there is a fixed, there's still an equation that you use, but basically it's one variable, one fixed number, and you plug those two together and it spits out a number, and that number is going to be the same no matter where you fall in between these 2 points. And then if you get above this point, basically you use a drawdown equation, which means that the higher your soil test level, the less you apply, until you fall back to this point, in which and then you start using a maintenance level and you stay right there. So hopefully everybody's following along here. So basically you got to look at the graph backwards, and if the higher your soil test level, well, the higher your soil test level, the less you apply. Although frankly, I don't know why, other than like a few years ago in Ohio, they had a real bad phosphorus, soluble phosphorus problem in the water that caused an algal bloom in Lake Erie. That is about, if you have such high levels that is causing environmental issues, that is really the only place I could ever see anybody ever using this. Because if you have a respectably high soil test level, I'd think you'd want, in my mind, you should maintain it there, and you just use a maintenance level. And basically what the maintenance level does is it takes into account your yield goal and the soil test level, and basically you are replacing exactly what the crop is removing so that your soil test level stays exactly the same, and you're never, basically everything comes out in a wash, which is what I'm doing. Normally most of my stuff was in a maintenance range to begin with, but I had some stuff that stayed in the build-up range. This year everything is getting a maintenance rate, and basically I went with a high maintenance rate. I went through my last couple years of fertilizer recommendations that I've done and found my highest maintenance rate for my P and my K, and use those to straight rate everything. So every field is getting at least what it needs to stay where it's at, and some fields are still getting over applied. And what that's going to get me is I use less fertilizer because I'm not trying to build anything up, but in the end I won't lose anything because I'm still replacing what the crop is taking away. So basically everything at the end of the year is going to come out as a zero. So like for corn, I straight rated 120 pounds an acre of DAP and 85 pounds an acre of potash. And then for beans, I straight rated 90 pounds of DAP and 150 pounds of potash. And that was across, this would have been across all my bean fields. This would have been across all my corn fields. And then because these levels are lower, well, especially mostly my DAP, the potash doesn't really take into account too much for corn. Which is why it's only 85 pounds an acre. Beans love potash, which is why that's 150 pounds an acre. And then likewise, beans don't really need much nitrogen, and they only need a little phosphorus, so you're only 90 pounds an acre of DAP, whereas corn needs more nitrogen and more phosphorus, so you're at 120 pounds on the corn. And then because my DAP application rate is lower than normal, I adjusted my urea rate up to compensate for the lower amount of nitrogen I'm putting on, straight rating the 120 pounds. So basically that's where I'm at. And then for starter fertilizer, I use triple 19 at what it's been coming out to is about 158 pounds an acre. So yeah, that's basically, in the triple 19, that's always remained constant because I don't want to screw with my planter. That 150 pounds an acre, that gets you a really nice little blend. And a lot of guys will ask why I'm bothering to put on K in the row. It's because I like to spread out my application. That way I got a little bit in a band and then I got everything broadcast. So basically that's what the plan is for this year. It's save a little bit of money and still fertilize to get respectable yields, but not over apply to try to get my soil test levels up. So like I say, with these rates, everything's gonna come out in the wash. It's not like I'm mining the ground for nutrients because I'm under applying fertilizer. I'm still applying what it needs. I'm just not over applying like normal. So hopefully you followed along there. There's fertilizer recommendations, could be an entire series of videos on their own, and we don't need to go down that road because holy crap. And then what works in this area is not going to be the same for, like, Iowa's going to use different set of fertilizer recs, and it's just, fertilizer is a very scientific, very technical, you better know what you need for your area kind of deal. And just because it works here doesn't mean it's going to work somewhere else. It's also one of them deals where you need to know your ground, because just because it works on your farm doesn't mean it's going to work on the farm across the road. So like I say, fertilizer could be its own deal, own video, and like, yeah. So sorry I'm rambling a little bit. I'm really damn tired. That was a long day. So anyway, I guess we'll cut her off here. Go from there. So that's it for this one. We'll catch y'all on the next one.